Deputy Joe Deacon joins forces with Sergeant Jim Baxter to search for a serial killer who's terrorizing Los Angeles. As they track down the culprit, Baxter is unaware that investigation is dredging up echoes of Deke's past, uncovering disturbing secrets that can threaten more than his case. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new early movie review, and today we're discussing the new psychological crime thriller, The Little Things, which will be coming to theaters and HBO Max on Friday. Now, I'm going to let you all know what I thought about this movie and if you all should check it out in this spoiler-free review. But before we dive into it, as you all can see on the screen now, make sure you're following me on all my other social media accounts like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, which you can find all those links in the description below. If you are new to the channel, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing, and while you're at it, hit the notification bell. That way you can get the alert for when I drop new content. It would mean a lot to me if you all can like and share this review. It not only helps out the channel, but I also appreciate all the support. And in the comments below, let me know if you all were looking forward to this film. And of course, once you've seen it, let's discuss it. Your pros, your cons, your overall thoughts. Did you like the ending? But also, we have 3 Academy Award winning actors in this film. Let me know some of your favorite movies by these actors, and let's discuss those movies in the comments below. So, The Little Things was a film I was really looking forward to. I'm a big fan of this genre. I'm a big fan of this cast. And when you look at the backstory of this movie has been in the works since 1993. You have people like Steven Spielberg that was going to be a director at one point, but he thought the film's a little bit too dark for his sensibilities. You have Danny DeVito that was attached to it at one point, Clint Eastwood. But fast forward to 2021, we have John Lee Hancock, who wrote and directed this film. And we're going to talk about this film, starting off with the positives. Let's start off with these 3 Academy Award winning actors, starting off with Jared Leto. Now, I know Jared Leto doesn't work for everyone, whether it be the Joker, whether it be his character in Blade Runner 2049, his ways of how he gets into the characters don't work for everyone, but he's an Academy Award winning actor, and I like Jared Leto for the most part. And in particularly, when you look at his character, Albert, who is the main suspect of these crimes, he's hit or miss for me in this movie, I'm not going to lie, but focusing more on the positives here, I thought at its best, Albert and his chemistry and his back and forth, his cat and mouse game with Denzel Washington character Deke really worked for me. I think of 2 scenes in particular that really kind of shines for that character, Albert. There's 2 scenes in the trailer where there's the interrogation moment. When they bring him in, they question him, and his moments with Jimmy don't really work, but when Denzel gets in that room, that's when that's when Albert's character really kind of shine, and I really enjoyed that interrogation scene, and as well as there's a scene that takes place on a highway involving trunk space, let's just say that. And again, Jared Leto, great actor. There's some stuff that really doesn't work with me with this character that I'll talk about a little bit later. But again, I thought that character, Albert, really was at his best when he was on screen with Denzel Washington, which brings me to another Academy Award-winning actor, and that's Rami Malek, who is Jimmy, who is this kind of hotshot detective. This is his case, and he is willing to do anything to solve this case. That means maybe even breaking the law or even losing his family in the process. And kind of speaking of his family, there's a parallel in this story. The film kind of beats you over the head with the parallels, and that's the parallels in the way that Jimmy goes about his work of being a homicide detective, and how Deke went about being a detective, and how Jimmy just really consumes himself and lets the little things tear him apart. And again, the film beats you over the head with that subject matter, but I thought that the performance of Rami Malek as Jimmy was solid. Again, going back to Denzel, whenever Jimmy was on screen with Denzel, I feel like the character was elevated, and their chemistry doesn't start off that great at first, just because number one, they're butting heads at ego. Like Jimmy's like, hey, you're stepping on my territory here, Deke. This is my case here. But as the film goes on, they realize they have more in common. Deke tries to take him under his wing and tries to not get him on the same path that Deke was when he was a detective back in the day. But I thought, again, Jimmy, and Rami Malek's performance was solid for the most part. Which brings me to my favorite actor of all time, and I think the saving grace of this film, and that is Denzel Washington as Deputy Deacon. Now, I thought that Denzel's character, again, you look at his past, he allowed the small things to tear him apart, and in doing so, he's lost some things in the past, his relationship with his kids, his wife, things of that nature, his relationships with the people in his department, and you find out what happens in his past that really haunts him. But I thought that Denzel, as Denzel always does, the charm, the charisma, him interrogating people, him trying to figure things out. I just really enjoyed his character. I wish we would have spent more time with his character, like how he's so good at what he does. And exploring more of his relationships with different people in the department that he used to work for. But again, I thought that whenever Denzel was on screen with Jimmy and when he was on screen with Albert, he elevated the film. He elevated those characters. And speaking of those characters, even though there's some shortcomings that I have with the Jimmy and the Albert character, I still felt that Denzel, Jared Leto, and Rami Malek's, their performance elevates this film because the script isn't that great, which brings me into the story, the stuff I like with the story. We've seen this before. It's a very predictable film at a lot of points, but I thought for the most part, I was really invested in this film, especially in the first two acts, and especially that second half of the film. That's when the film was clicking on all cylinders. The film was really going at a good pace. The mystery aspect was really working. You start to realize that the film isn't really too focused on who the killer is, and it's more about the character development and figuring out like what haunts them and why they allow the little things to tear them apart. So the second half is when the film was at its best. So transitioning into my criticisms here, and I'll start off with the little things that bother me, starting off with there was a pacing issue, and it was throughout the film for me personally. And in particular, I think of some plot issues that I won't dive into without getting into spoilers. I feel like there were some unnecessary detours that the film kind of took in regards to the subplot. And another little thing that bothered me, a really minor thing, this film takes place in the 90s. Now, not every film has to embrace the decade that they're in, but I really wish that the film would have focused on the lack of technology they had. I wish they would embrace the things that went on in the 90s. They really don't shine a light on that, and I wish they would have focused more on, like, again, what was going on in the 90s. Again, a minor thing, but going into the things that really did bother me, going back to the characters that had a little shortcomings. Speaking of Jimmy, Rami Malek's character, there's a subplot involving his family. Now, again, there's a lot of similarities between Deke's career and Jimmy's career, and they consume themselves in work, and in doing so, they lose their close ones. And the audience, as an audience member, you know that things aren't going right in Jimmy's house, and his wife does not like how much he consumes himself in his work, and we see that, but it's never discussed in the film. And I wish they would have spent more time in that family dynamic in regards to the dynamic of his household. And you understand Jimmy's motives. It's very obvious. He has two little girls. There are women being killed in Los Angeles. He doesn't want to ever get that call that something happens to his little girl. So you understand the motives, but I wish the family dynamic was a little bit more fleshed out. Which brings me to, again, Jimmy underwhelming. The film presents him as this detective that can figure things out. He's a hard ass. He doesn't really take no nonsense. But I never really felt that, especially in the first half. They really kind of focused on that with Jimmy. I never really felt that from the character, if I'm being honest. Which brings me to, I mentioned Jared Leto, the parts that work, the parts that don't work. The film tries to make him be this kind of wisecracking. He's trying to provoke our main characters. And I felt the film just didn't work for me when they did that. It wasn't necessarily the performance. It was more or less the dialogue and the way the script kind of presented him as this kind of Kevin Spacey, John Doe character from Seven meets Robin Williams from Insomnia. The character just didn't work for me in that aspect. They should have had more scenes with Albert and Deke's character versus the scenes they have with him and Jimmy just didn't work for me personally. And then lastly, the ending is very divisive. I'm on the fence of, I'm not a big fan of the ending at all, if I'm being honest. I don't want to obviously get into spoilers. The film, I'm going to warn you all now, the film markets itself as like this crime thriller, who's the killer, all this stuff. It's really not really focused on that aspect. It's about the characters and what it's like to be a detective and working in homicide and what those, trying to figure out a case and not figuring out who the murderer is can really eat at these characters. And that's really the heart of the film. But when we go to that third act, the decisions being made at the end of the movie, and particularly with Deke's character and then what happens with Jimmy, I don't want to get into the spoiler, but I'll just say I don't think it was the right call. It wasn't an ending I was a fan of, especially in the climate we live in. And once you see the film, you'll know what I'm talking about, revolving the police and the stuff that haunts Deke's and Jimmy's current situation. And, as they say in the film, the past is the future and the future is the past. I'm not a fan of the ending. I'll just leave it at that. But with that being said, before I give you all my overall thoughts, make sure to like this video, share this video, leave your thoughts in the comments once you've seen the film, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. That way you can get the alert when I drop new content. With that being said, let me give you all my overall thoughts and my score for The Little Things. So overall, the film did keep me invested for the most part due to the charm and the charisma in Denzel Washington's character, as well as his unmatched screen presence. And I thought that he really elevated the film and the other actors in the movie. And I did appreciate the throwback, old-fashioned crime, mystery, thriller aspect. And the film really does focus on the characters and what happens when they allow the little things to mess up their mental state and tear them apart. But unfortunately, the film tries to be Seven meets Insomnia and misses the mark on the character development, and particularly with Jimmy and Albert's character. And I think a lot of people will probably be disappointed by the ending in the third act, but overall, I still had some more positives and negatives for this film, and that's why I'm going to give The Little Things a 3 out of 5. Now, it is a slow burn, and I really was invested in that most of the film in regards to the first 2 acts, but that ending did not work for me at all. And even though I had some shortcomings with Jimmy and Albert, I really feel like this is worth watching, just for the simple fact that Denzel Washington is in this movie, and he does a great job, and I really enjoyed his story. So with that, give it a watch. It will be available in theaters as well as on HBO Max on Friday. And when you check it out, let me know what you all thought of the movie, your pros, your cons. What did you think of that ending? And as well as let me know some of your favorite movies by Denzel, Jared, as well as Rami. Let's talk about it in the comments. As always, thank you all for watching this review. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video, share this review, leave your thoughts in the comments as always, and subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you can stay up to date with what's going on over here at Movie Files. Hope you all are staying safe, and we'll see you on the next video.